Welcome back to the Medcurity podcast. Quick episode for you. Today we are talking about what is actually required for HIPAA compliance in 2025, what the law says you need to have in place, and what regulators are really expecting from healthcare organizations this year. Now let's start here. The core HIPAA rules haven't drastically changed, but enforcement actually has. OCR is sharpening its focus on how organizations are handling risk, especially through their security risk analysis, or SRA. That is still the foundation. If you haven't completed a comprehensive organization-wide SRA this year or updated one from a prior year, that should be your first priority. And by comprehensive, we mean technical, administrative, and physical safeguards all need to be looked at. You can't just scan your network and call it good for this, okay? Now, once the SRA is complete, the next thing that regulators are going to look for is a real actionable risk management plan. That means that you have identified areas that need improvement. Maybe it's weak password policies or outdated software, and you've laid out steps to address them. This doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be intentional and documented. Saying that we're going to work on this later doesn't cut it in 2025. Another area that's getting more attention is employee training. We've said this before, but it is worth repeating. Your people are your first line of defense, and they are also the most common source of mistakes. OCR expects regular documented training, not just once during onboarding. This includes how to handle patient data, how to recognize phishing attempts, what to do if a device gets lost or stolen, and how to report an incident. The key is to make it part of your culture, not just to check a box. Encryption is another topic we get asked about a lot. Technically, HIPAA calls this an addressable safeguard, but that doesn't mean optional. If you choose not to encrypt devices that store or transmit PHI, you have to document why you chose that and what you're doing instead to protect that data. In practice, encryption is the expectation, especially on mobile devices. If a laptop with unencrypted patient data gets stolen, the OCR is going to ask you why you didn't prevent that. And then there's access control. This is about limiting who can see patient information based on their role. Not everyone in your organization needs access to everything, and they shouldn't have access to everything. This is not just about usernames and passwords either. It's about making sure that access is granted thoughtfully and revoked when it's no longer needed. We've seen issues come up when a former employee still has login credentials, or when someone changes roles and they retain access to something they no longer need access to. Audit logs go hand in hand with access control. You need to be able to see who is accessing PHI, when, and from where. And then you need to be able to review those logs regularly, kind of like a security camera, right? If you don't review these logs, then you aren't going to catch suspicious behavior until it's too late. Another key piece of compliance is how you handle incidents. If something goes wrong, like a ransomware attack or an email sent to the wrong recipient, you need a documented process to follow. Who gets notified? How is the damage contained? When is this reported? And importantly, are you tracking what happened and what you've done to prevent it from happening again? Backups also play a big role here. You've got to have retrievable backups of electronic PHI that you can restore quickly if systems go down. And that includes testing those backups. It's not enough to just assume that they're going to work when you need them. All right. Let's talk about right of access. This continues to be one of the top enforcement areas. Patients have the right to get their records within 30 days of a valid request, and if there's a delay, you need to provide written notice with a valid reason. Failing to meet that timeline, even if the delay is due to internal coordination issues, can lead to fines. We've seen it happen multiple times. Your process should be clear, efficient, and trackable. Business associate agreements are another thing that often gets missed. If you work with vendors that have access to PHI, like cloud providers, billing companies, or IT support, you need signed agreements in place. These agreements should spell out their responsibilities under HIPAA and be reviewed regularly. And finally, policies and procedures. This is the connective tissue that holds your whole program together. You need written, customized policies that reflect what your organization actually does. Not generic templates that you downloaded 5 years ago, right? These policies should be reviewed, updated, and communicated to your staff. Okay, we've gone fast, and all of this probably sounds like a lot, but it is manageable when you focus on what HIPAA really asks for. Identify your risks, make a plan, train your team, and then follow your own procedures. That's what compliance comes down to in 2025. If it all feels overwhelming, you're not alone. Most organizations don't have someone that is sitting around with extra time to stay on top of this, and that's why Medcurity exists. We can help you complete your security risk analysis, manage your documentation, and keep everything organized in one place. So thanks for listening today. I hope this helped make HIPAA compliance feel a little more doable, maybe a little less mysterious for 2025. We will be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned, and as always, keep that patient data protected.